Welcome back to biology class today. Once again, my name is David Oluwatosin and I'll be taking you biology. The topic we'll be looking at today is the study of living and non-living things. Basically, we want to know the difference. We want to consider what a living thing is and what it is meant when it is said that something is non-living. So at the end of this topic today, you should be able to define the following. You should be able to give an acceptable definition of living and non-living thing. Like, okay, based on these facts, this particular thing is living or non-living. You should be able to mention some example of living and non-living things close to you in your environment. You should be able to give the characteristics of living things. Remember in our previous class, we talked about science. That science is using a systematic and structural arrangement of data to come to a meaningful, acceptable conclusion. So you should be able to give us a generally acceptable characteristics of living things after this class. And number 4, you should be able to highlight basic differences between plants and animals. Lastly, you should be able to explain the organization of life. Stay with me on this topic. It's a very interesting one. Make sure you have your notepad and your pen. If you have not liked and subscribed to this channel, it's time to do so. We'll be right back. Hello, welcome back. We are still on the topic living and non-living thing, characteristics of living and non-living thing, and we are on the subtopic living and non-living thing. What is living thing? Everything in the earth is characterized into two sections. It's either they are living or non-living thing. I'm sure you are guessing the answer already. Living thing is anything that has life. Anything that has life. Anything that is alive is a living thing, okay? And non-living things are things that do not possess life. Simple. So let's look at the characteristics of living things. As we have said that everything you see in this earth can be categorized only under two categories. It's either they are living or they are not living. So what are the characteristics of living things? How do we look at this and say this one is a living thing and this is not? If you see these particular things I want to list now, in an organism or an object, you can say, oh, I'm sure, this is a living thing. What are the facts? 1, all living things do what? They move. The characteristic of living things is that living things move without assistance on their own. For example, this flower is moving. Is it a living thing? No, it is not a living thing because what? It requires assistance from me. So, living thing does not require assistance to move. You say, what about the tree behind my house? It's not moving. Well, it's moving. It's moving upwards. So, all living things move. Either they move upwards, like plants. Plants will also move. Their branches will move. Okay? Or like animals, like I now. Movement is a characteristic of living things. All living things must move. Then, another characteristics or features of living things. Living things feed. If you are not feeding and you are not drinking, you die as a living thing. Okay, so all living things must feed to retain life. They must feed to break down what they have eaten into simple sugar, into glucose to give energy. You don't necessarily need food, okay, in terms of rice, beans to live. That's why persons could be on the hospital bed for a year and be taking drip, only drip, without nothing going through the mouth, and yet be alive.
Hello, if you're enjoying this video and want to see more content relating to this towards your examination success, make sure you like this video make sure you subscribe to this channel. Share it with your friends, okay? Because we'll be releasing loads and loads of beautiful content tailored towards your examination success in one sitting. Now let's get back to the class.
Or you don't know that? Yes, there are people who live for years on oxygen and liquids through their vein, intravenous, or through some drops in the mouth, and survive. Because you don't always need food. What you need is the end products that comes from the synthesis of those foods, which is mostly sugar, glucose, to give you energy. So living things must feed. Green plants manufacture their own food through photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? The process of making your own food through sunlight. And that is a feature of green plants. So they are autotrophic. Animals cannot manufacture their own food, but depend on plants. So we call animals heterotrophic, because we depend on plants for our nutrition. Another word for this feeding is nutrition. In some textbooks, it will be written here as nutrition. So all living things must receive nutrients to have energy, to survive and function in their environment. The third characteristic of living things I have outlined today is excretion. If living things are taken in, they must take out. If they don't take out, there's a problem. So all living things must excrete. You say, oh, does it mean that plants excrete? Yes, plants excrete. Okay? So all living things, animals and plants alike, must excrete. Now I have a short classwork for you. I want you to use the form below to tell me, when human beings take oxygen, what do they release out? As I mentioned, that any living thing that takes in something must give out something. What do they give out? Make sure you answer that in using the form below. The first top 3 accurate answers will get a prize in my next class. And the number 4 characteristics or features of living thing is irritability or sensitivity. The art of responding to stimuli. That means if I hit you, you feel pain, you react. It's because you are living. You see, an example of somebody who is dead, if you hit the person, beat the person, slap the person, he doesn't know. Nothing is going on because he's not alive anymore. He's not able to fulfill that feature of a living thing. So a living thing must respond to stimuli, must react to action. And then we have respiration. All living things must use oxygen to break down food. All living things must use oxygen or carbon dioxide to break down food to produce energy. We have 2 types of respiration. We have the anaerobic, the one where you use oxygen, like human beings using oxygen, mammals using oxygen to break down food to receive energy. And we have anaerobic, in the case of plants, who use carbon dioxide, to break down their food for energy. But all living things must breathe, must possess respiratory tissue, cell, ducts. And then we have growth. Living things must grow, either in size. You say, what about people who are dwarves that are not growing in size? Well, they may not be growing in physical size. They are growing in mass. Meaning, if you take their weight this year, it can't be the same as it was 5 years ago. So living things must increase in mass to show that they are alive. If that object is not increasing in size or mass or weight or span, it's probably not alive. And then we have reproduction. Living things reproduce after its kind. As you can see in the book of Genesis chapter 1, in the creation of God, it says, let them reproduce after their kind. So all living things reproduce. We have 2 types of reproduction. The sexual reproduction that involves 2 organisms. Sorry, pardon my error here. We have the sexual reproduction that involves two organisms, as in the case of humans or mammals, most animals. And then we have asexual, that in the case of one organism. Okay. In the case of human beings, a male and a female must come together. Okay, or sperm and ovary and eggs must come together to produce an offspring. So sexual reproduction in that case. Then we have adaptation. All living things adapt to their environment. Okay, so it's a feature of living thing. And then number 9 on our list, we have lifespan or death. There is a time for everything, as says in the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. So all living thing has a lifespan. There is a lifespan for iroko trees, lifespan for humans. Okay, there are lifespans for goats, sheep, mosquito. So all living thing has a lifespan. Another interesting feature of living thing is competition. All living things compete for food, space, and comfort in order to remain in existence. You must be walking on your street sometimes, especially those who live in rural areas, and you see 2 cockerels fighting for space. You see, they are fighting because they are only showing the characteristics that they are living things. Just like human beings also will fight for position in the office, fight to get a job. Competition. It is a characteristic of living things. Don't blame them. It is a characteristic of living things. We fight as living things to survive. Not just human beings, even plants would fight on the field to get nutrients from the soil to survive. And then lastly, all living things have cells. Either a single cell, as in unicellular, or multicellular, 2 or more cells. All living things must contain cells, which is the basic and structural unit of life. Now moving on to the next topic. The difference between plants and animals. What are the differences between plants and animals? Briefly, I have outlined them here. What we just explained, I just put it in a table to make it simpler for you. 1, animals move. Plants are fixed in a position. They can only move upwards, as I said before. Animals possess a heterotrophic mode of nutrition, meaning they don't produce their food, they have to depend on plants for survival. Plants produce their own food through the help of photosynthesis. Animals have no cell wall. Plants possess cell wall. Animals have sense organs. Here's another classwork for you. Mention the sense organs for humans. And also mention the sense organs for dogs. Okay? Use the form in the description to send me the answer. The top 3 answer will get the prize in our next biological class. So plants have no sense organs. Animals store carbohydrates as glycogen, but plants store it as what? Starch. Animals have special excretory organs. You don't pee through your ear or through your eyes. You have a special organ for excretion, but plants excrete through all parts of their body. So they have no special excretory organ, or majorly through their leaves as well. Alright, animal responds quickly to stimulus. If I gave you a pinch, you respond quickly. If I gave you a knock, you respond quickly. But plant responds very slowly. When I push it, it just moves like this, gets back to its position. So that is that. Then we also have animals have special respiratory organs. Okay, and plants has no special respiratory organs. Then animals have fixed number of body parts. For example, 2 hands. You cannot see a human being that has 3 hands. You cannot see a dog that has 5 limbs. It's fixed. But when it comes to plants, one mango tree can have 100 branches. Another mango tree may have 200. See, so plants have no fixed number of body parts. Our last subtopic, this moves us to our last subtopic for this class, which is organization of life. What is the organization of life? We have 4 simple organization of life. The first is the cell. All living things are made up of cell. The cell, as I said before, is the singular structural startup or unit of life. Life starts from the cell. Okay? Some plants and animals have one cell. Simple animals. And most plants have one cell. They are unicellular. An example of that is amoeba. Okay? But most animals are multicellular. They contain so many cells. Like you now, watching this video. You have probably millions and billions of cells in you. Now, cells come together to make up what we call tissues. What's an example of tissue? Muscles and bones. Your muscles, your bones are made up of a number of cells that is performing the same function. Alright, so tissue are made up of a group of cells that perform the same or similar functions.
Hi, I know you're enjoying this video and would like to see related materials and content. We have loads and loads for you in store. Make sure you like this channel, subscribe, hit the subscription button right now, and share with your friends and colleagues so that when we release the next video, YouTube will notify you. Now let's get back to the class.
For example, as I said before, muscles, bones, specific functions in the body. They are a collection of cells that make up or that functions for a particular purpose. And then the third one in our organization of life are organs. What are organs? Organs are a group of similar tissues that perform the same function. For example, your eyes that look so small as this is a large organ that contains several tissues that must come together to work towards the purpose of seeing. You have your ear, that is just the outward ear that is just so small like this, or the external part of your ear. Your ear is way bigger than what you see here. It's made up of several tissues that come together to perform a specific function. And then lastly, we have system. What is a system? A system is a group of similar organs that perform a specific function. Just as we have the organs, the tissues, they are similar organs coming together to perform a function. You must have heard of the excretory system. That is the system that allows you to pass out waste. There are a lot of organs that come together to make sure that when you sit on your toilet bowl, you are releasing. Okay? So, also, there are so many organs that come to work together so that when you take in food, there is proper digestion. If these organs don't work together, then you have problems. You have people going to the hospital, you see, to get medical attention. So, systems are a group of similar organs that perform a specific function. In plants, we have an example of the root system that helps the plant to absorb nutrients from the soil into its stem and branches for the growth of the plant. We have respiration system in humans that helps us to breathe. I hope you enjoyed this class today, and I hope that you have been able to answer our objectives that we outlined, the 4 objectives that we outlined at the beginning of this class. Make sure you take on those assignments that I have mentioned. Also follow us on all of our social media pages. You can also download our apps to have access to thousands of computer-based tests as you prepare yourself for your upcoming exam. Thank you. See you in the next video.
Hi, if you have not subscribed to this channel, you can do so in 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And don't forget to hit the notification button.